Hey everyone, welcome back to the Casket Minds podcast for episode 5. Can't believe we've already made it to 5 episodes. Casket Minds is your weekly destination for all things gaming, including the latest game industry news, in-depth reviews, impressions, and much more. As always, I am your host, Mitch, alongside Drew. How we doing, Drewby?
We're doing pretty great, dude. E3
Yes.
season is sadly over for the most part. We do have Annapurna coming up soon, but the big showcases are out of the way. But I'm still riding that high from all the awesome stuff that we saw that we're about to get into later.
Yes, so E3 season is practically over now for us, minus that last showcase that Drew just mentioned, which is on the 29th of June. It's 2 weeks, a day under 2 weeks now. Um, but yeah, now that that's over, Drew, we have everything to look forward to. And that's what we're going to be covering on the podcast today is the Xbox Showcase plus Starfield Direct. So we're going to break down everything that you saw there, both at Xbox and the Starfield, and we're going to give you some swift little Ubisoft forward impressions. There wasn't a ton there to break down, but the highlights and the big games that were there, we're definitely going to be covering those. So thank you guys for tuning back in to the Casting Minds podcast. And here we go. So, Drewby, what did you think about the Xbox Showcase?
So I tempered my expectations a lot with PlayStation and Summer Game Fest, and I do think like we talked about it, Summer Game Fest was really freaking good. Um, but I was like, Xbox has let me down before. I don't want to hype myself up too much. Um, so I had much more realistic expectations, I think. Um, and I was pleasantly surprised by how fantastic this showcase was, and the way they started it was just banger after banger. And like I was not expecting that. I don't think anyone was really expecting them to go full swing ahead with Fable and then Compulsion Games and like so much more. So I was really satisfied with their showcase. And yeah, like I'm just happy to be really excited for Xbox right now.
Yeah, and that's a great point. Xbox did what PlayStation didn't, and they showed you exactly what you can expect this year, next year, and then even beyond next year. This was almost a virtually perfect showcase, in my opinion. It's
Yes.
head and shoulders above PlayStation's. It was better than Summer Game Fest, even though Summer Game Fest was very good itself. But this is what we want from a showcase. I don't think that it could have been much better at all. The only way that it would get much better for me is if they showed a tad more gameplay for the games that we've seen a couple times now, and like we want to know what those games are. But
Yeah.
other than that, there's the pacing of it was flawless. The presentation was like impeccable. It was an incredible showcase. And if you guys haven't watched it and you're into the showcases, I would highly suggest doing it because Xbox knocked it out of the park. I was sitting
Yeah.
there around the 20-minute mark and I was like, how could they possibly keep going? And another critique of mine, which is it's kind of silly, but it's something that I like. So I like consistency, and normally their showcases are like an hour and a half. This one's just a little over an hour because the Starfield Direct. And then there wasn't a one more thing. It was the Starfield Direct right after, and
Yeah.
that was just a tad disappointing. I wouldn't knock it like extremely for that, but for almost like a almost perfect showcase, uh, that would have been the icing on the cake if it was something that we didn't know about.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that's where I stand on it. I think that I would give it I might even give it like a 95 out of 100, to be honest. That's how good this showcase was for me.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. No, it's definitely like I would give it a 5 out of 5. Not saying that it's perfect, but it was as good as you're gonna get. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, 100%.
yeah, I thought it was fantastic, and again, like it feels so good as like an Xbox fan to be really excited for what's coming up for Xbox, because man, I've been starving for far too long. Um, but also just as a gaming fan in general, it's really cool to see Xbox having a lot of big games coming up that are going to be really competitive. You know, like it's going to put some solid competition on the market as far as first party titles goes. Which is something that I've wanted to see Xbox do for a long time. Not for like the console wars, but for seeing Xbox, you know, really like show their worth and say like, hey, like we got great games here too. So it's just super exciting stuff.
Yeah, I mean, excellency like breeds competition,
Yeah,
and honestly, I think there's an argument to be made that the shift in Sony's philosophy of going live service games, the multiplayer centric stuff instead of the single player stuff, and branching out, is actually probably a direct correlation with Xbox's shortcomings in the last generation. Sony transitioned into the first party single player experiences, and now they're branching out because there hasn't been much competition. Like the Switch is doing great, but Nintendo isn't a direct competitor of PlayStation the same way that Xbox is.
yeah,
um so I think there's a lot to be said there. And as someone who absolutely adores Xbox but has been very critical of them over the last decade or so now, I am very happy with how this showcase was and where Xbox is in general. Redfall was a flop. We went over that on a previous episode of Casket Minds of how Arcane Austin didn't really want to make a game like this. It wasn't their creative vision. Like, I believe it was 70% of the development team had left the studio before the game shipped because it wasn't what they wanted it to be.
yeah,
Um, but Xbox did a course correction here, in a massive way, and we're gonna tell you exactly why right now. So when they opened with this game, Drewby, I was like, "Holy shit!" Like, they're coming out swinging right now, because I thought that this was going to be the closer. I really did. Or I
yeah,
thought that they were going to open with, like, Hellblade, because we've seen Hellblade on multiple occasions at different showcases. It was at the Game Awards as well. um but no, it opens with Fable, and it looks incredible. Turn 10 Studios has done something very special with this game. um it isn't in like a in-game footage. There's like a twinkle of gameplay, but it's not like there's no HUD or like noticeable elements of that. It's just like a little brief sequence of, I believe it's just a fireball, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah.
um and I forget the actor's name. Do you happen to know it? It's the guy from the IT crowd.
I cannot remember off the top of my head.
If you've seen the IT crowd, you know this fellow. They're going in the actual like Fable roots. They're doing like a giant and like Jack and the Beanstalk kind of ordeal here, and it's awesome. And it's got the British comedy that we all miss and love from Fable.
Yeah, you can kick chickens like
Yes, you
very
can.
far too, like much further than you could in the other games. There's a clip
Chicken
of that.
chaser.
So that was awesome to see. But yeah, I was gonna say real quick, it was all in-engine footage. So the game will hopefully look like that at launch. And also it was running on a Series X apparently.
Yep.
Which that's super impressive because those graphics are really freaking good, like top tier, AAA graphics right there. So that was like really exciting to find out about. I really like the direction that they're taking with this because like we knew that it was going to be a reboot. So there's obviously going to be some differences, and I really like how they're doing like this literal sense of like fables and myths and legends. I hope that they really like lean into that and just like every like side quest, like the main story has to deal with like different like fairy tales and fables and stuff. Because like you said, we have like the Jack and the Beanstalk kind of thing going on here, but like what else do they have in store? Like maybe like Little Red Riding Hood stuff, or like like different things like that. Like that would just be really cool, and like a really unique setting for the game.
Yeah, agreed. It looks phenomenal, as Drew said. It's by the guys that make the Forza Horizon series, so they're getting to branch out here.
Yeah,
similar to what PlayStation allowed their studios to do. And so far, this looks like it's paying off big time. I mean, this looks incredible, guys. If you're into Fable or interested, definitely check that trailer out. Um, but yeah, I'm personally excited. The only little bit of letdown from that is that there was no year or window on that.
yeah,
I feel like if Xbox was confident that it was coming next year, they would have said that and put a 2024 release window.
for sure.
But
Things could
if
change
it
though, you know, like by the end of the
true,
year, maybe they're gonna be like, hey, it's actually coming out in 2024. So
yeah, exactly. Like now would be you don't need to announce like if it's the fall title next year, you don't need to say 2024. You can do that at like the Game Awards or something.
exactly.
Right. So moving on to the next game, it is from Compulsion. These guys did We Happy Few a few years ago now, pun intended, I guess. Uh, this is an in-game footage trailer as well, and we don't see any snippets of gameplay or anything. It's basically just a tone-setting piece, and it does a really good job of that.
Yeah.
I got a little bit excited because in the beginning of the trailer there was like a gas like tank, and it reminded me of like Black Ops zombies, like the Jug.
Oh yeah.
So I got really excited for that. And I was like, "Ooh, are they gonna do like a zombie story mode?" But unfortunately, I think it's a little bit early for them to start doing that, considering the Activision Blizzard deal hasn't gone through yet. But hopefully soon that goes through. But back to the showcase and Compulsion Games. They are working on a brand new game called South of Midnight. What did you think about this one?
I love the art style. Again, it was all in engine, which is like really cool. Like everything at the showcase was for first party titles. Um, so yeah, the art style is fantastic. I like how it kind of has that like into the Spider Verse, across the Spider Verse feel, where like there's almost like less frame rate to like the characters and stuff. It just adds a really unique like art style, and I don't think we've really seen too many games try and like achieve that. So if that's what they're going for in terms of like the art style and like gameplay and everything, that would be really interesting. um I was really like, this trailer really piqued my interest. I didn't really know like what it was, but I will say, I'll just go ahead and read it off on the Compulsion Games website. They actually have a little bit more information, which I wish would have been in the showcase, but it's fine, because the rest of the showcase was fantastic. But South of Midnight is a third-person action adventure game set in the American Deep South. The game tells a dark modern folk tale and is driven by a rich narrative, unique moody art direction, and deep thematic gameplay elements. We like to refer to this game as wide linear, with some explorable areas, but gated to require completion of the story in that area before moving on to the next. So to me, that kind of tells me it's going to be kind of along the lines of something like God of War, Ragnarok, or something like that, where there's like a lot to explore, but it's not like a full-on open world game. Um, and then some more information, like regarding the game. As the title mentions, it's called South of Midnight. So the game is like set in like the deep south, and it's all based on actual southern folklore. So like different supernatural stories, urban legends that all took place in the deep south, like in our reality. So that's like really interesting. I don't think I've really heard of any games being set within this setting. So seeing something like super unique like that gets me really excited. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. And you know, since it's a first party title, it's gonna be on Game Pass day one.
Yep, and there was 27 games shown at this showcase, and 21 of them are going to be on Game Pass day one. So that's another incredible feat from Xbox, just further enriching the best deal in gaming with Xbox Game Pass.
Yep.
Um, incredible stuff. Speaking of incredible stuff, though, Drewby, this is something that I know that you're personally extremely hyped for, and we got our first, well, it's really an announcement of some sorts. It was Ubisoft's Star Wars game from Massive Entertainment, the guys who did The Division. It's called Star Wars Outlaws. It is an open world. It's a first open world Star Wars game, but that's kind of belittling it. It's open planets, right? Because you
Yeah,
can. So we learned in the Ubisoft Forward um, that you can escape situations by getting in your spaceship and literally leaving the planet. And it's not like a fast travel out of the planet ordeal. It's you get in it and you fly out of the planet and you can go to other planets. Um,
basically exactly what you would dream of for an open world Star Wars game.
yeah, or just any sci-fi game really. There's
For
not
real.
many games that do that. Like No Man's Sky does it, for instance, and that's like always the appeal to me. I want to be able to physically do that. I want to
Yeah.
be able to leave like the atmosphere and then go into space. And you can, I mean, the gameplay thing at Ubisoft Forward was exactly that. They were doing a heist mission, so to speak, and things went sideways. There's a wanted level like in Grand Theft Auto and Red Dead. Um, so she was being hunted. So she got on a speeder, was couldn't get away from the guys. The guys were still chasing her. She hops in the spaceship, goes to space, gets into some dogfights, and then hyper speeds out to another, I guess, system or just further in the system, I suppose.
Yeah, yeah. I
But
think I think all of the planets are taking place in the outer rim. So I'm assuming, they're all in the same system.
makes sense. But yeah, this gameplay looks incredible. I believe it was a 10-minute trailer that they showed off. I would highly suggest doing it because us talking about it won't do it justice. It looks
Yeah.
incredible. Um, Massive has really done something special here. And that's not the only thing that they're doing that's special, but we'll get to that toward the end of the show with the Ubisoft Forward impressions. So, moving from Star Wars into a roguelike, 33 Immortals coming from Thunder Lotus Studios, or Lotus Games, I apologize. They did Spiritfarer a couple years ago. I think it was 2020. It's a indie game, very good stuff. It's a co-op game. It's a co-op action roguelike for 33 players. It looks really good and
Yeah.
surprising for that many players.
Oh yeah. And the indie game that you just mentioned that they made previously, it's got a huge following. I
Mhm.
think it's like got a 9 or a 10 on Steam, like overwhelmingly positive reviews. So I know people are like massively excited for this. I wasn't really familiar with them beforehand, before the showcase. But watching this trailer, I was like, absolutely, I will play this. The fact that it's 33 players is really impressive and unique and such a like weird number to pick. But yeah, like I can't wait to get my hands on it. It looks very akin to something like Hades, but 33 player co-op. And yeah, I don't have 33 friends to play with, but no, I'm just kidding. But no, like seriously, I can't wait to play this one.
Yep, this is another one that's coming to Game Pass day one, and it'll be coming in 2024. So we don't have to wait too long for that.
Yeah.
Um, but things we also don't have to wait long for. Payday 3. It's coming September 21st, day one to Xbox Game Pass. It looks exactly how you would expect it if you're familiar with Payday 1 or 2. It
Yeah.
looks like the next gen version. There's some quality of life improvements here. Um, they it wasn't in the showcase, but they did come out and say there's several new ways and different ways to tackle these heists and to get out of the situations and stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited to get back into this, and I think I'm mostly excited because it's on Game Pass because this isn't a game that I would pay full price for.
For sure.
Because I think that it's just a game that I would love to play for a couple hours at a time, put down, come back in a few months with some friends. Um, but yeah, Payday is a fun time, especially if you have like a 3 to 4 person friend group that want to just rob banks and be villains. So what's your hype level for Payday 3?
Not like insanely high, because again, like you said, it's like one of those games where I don't know if I'd pay full price for, but Payday 2 is a ton of fun. I've had a lot of fun with that game in the past, both on console and PC. So I'm definitely like looking forward to this. I don't know when I'm gonna play it though, because September's a pretty stacked month. But that's where Game Pass comes into play. I can play it whenever I want to.
Yep, exactly. And it's a perfect game to pick up, play it, and put it down, and you're not missing much.
Yep.
Now we're going to transition to a part of the showcase that, I mean, it's been banger after banger, but it continues to do so here, probably to a higher degree, I would think. So, unfortunately, it leaked, and we covered this on the last episode of Casket Minds podcast. But Persona 3 Reloaded got leaked. The trailer got leaked, as well as Persona 5 Tactics.
Yeah.
But that trailer did show up at Xbox as we originally thought, because it was highly rumored to be, and it was. And the trailer is still great. And we have a couple friends who aren't into watching like leaks and stuff. They would rather see it at the showcase, and they were extremely hyped for it. They're a Persona fan, and it looks incredible. Unfortunately, it's just the remake of 3, so like Fez and portable content won't be in it. It's just the
Yeah.
original one. Um, but the game looks incredible. It's the Persona 5 treatment of Persona 3. It's called
Yeah.
Persona 3 Reloaded, or Reload, sorry, not Reloaded. It is coming to Game Pass day one. It originally it only had Windows and Xbox on there, but it is coming to PlayStation 4 and 5. So if you're on PlayStation, don't think that you're not going to get Persona, because
Yeah.
Atlas loves Sony and Sony loves Atlas. So don't
Um,
think that that's going to happen.
I was also gonna say real quick, it's also getting a physical release, which is really cool.
Yes, we love that. We are very big on physical here at Casket Minds.
Absolutely.
So we're going to move into a game that I wanted to love more than I thought that or let me rephrase that. I wanted to love it because I thought it was something different, and I had a different picture in my mind. So we open up and it's Avowed, right?
Mm-hmm.
The trailer kind of made it seem like it was going to be Assassin's Creed at first, and then like a Sea of Thieves, because like the graphics kind of, they're not like photorealism like we expected from the little teaser that we got in what, 2020, I believe.
Yeah.
Um, we saw some snippets of gameplay. We saw some characters, some environments. It's a lot brighter, and instead of photorealism, it's going for a more, I don't even know what the art style I would call it, but it's not what I expected. And in the showcase, it kind of threw me for a loop, because I was trying to digest my feelings for what was shown versus what I expected. Um, and so I was a tad bit let down in that, but it was my own expectations fault versus the games.
Yeah.
And having seen more screenshots and game, like there's another trailer that shows like a small bit more gameplay. I'm starting to warm up to the idea of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's very brightly colored. It doesn't look extremely like next gen worthy, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But that's kind of Obsidian's kind of ordeal. They don't make pretty games. They make great games with great characters and great dialogue options.
They have much
So
smaller teams compared to like Bethesda and like some other big RPG studios as well.
yeah, that's fair.
Um, I
But with
was
Xbox's funding, I would expect a little bit better. But
definitely.
again, I'm still excited as crap to play this game. I think it's going to be good. Especially, I mean, Obsidian never let you down.
Yeah.
It's just I wasn't expecting this art style versus like a
Mm-hmm.
realistic take on the world of what is this game? Age of Pillars? Is that
Pillars of Eternity.
that's it? Thank you.
Yeah.
So this didn't get a release date, but it got a window of 2024. Of course, that's coming to Game Pass as well, because Obsidian is now owned by Xbox. And it's gonna be great, I believe. I still just have to digest what it is, I suppose. What do you
Yeah.
think?
Yeah. No, I definitely wasn't expecting the art style to be like this. I'm not surprised by it. And it didn't really disappoint me too much, because I think overall the game looks really interesting. Um, I like the emphasis on dual wielding and like how you can use magic while like holding a sword, or you can like use two swords, or like whatever you want to like combine. So I think that gameplay element looks really cool. And We also found out that it's going to be much more on the scale of something like Outer Worlds. So it's going to be a smaller RPG, but with a lot more depth. Um, and it sounds like it's going to be uh, kind of like Outer Worlds was, where it's like different sections of maps that you can explore instead of a full-on open world. Um,
Yeah.
so that was some interesting information to find out about. But I don't mind that personally because I think this is something that we're gonna like really have to like say often about this showcase. There's a lot of variety in this showcase. There's a lot of variety of what Xbox has slated, which I really like actually. Because we've got some smaller scale RPGs, we've got some big huge RPGs coming up like Starfield and Fable, and games in between that, and then we've got like some smaller, more indie like games. So um, really having that kind of variety for different gamers or like people who are wanting to try out something different, I think is a really smart move from Xbox. We don't need every single first party title to be a massive open world game or something like that.
Yeah, I agree. There is a lot of variety, but I was personally expecting this to be like the game that would hold us over until Elder Scrolls 6,
Yeah.
whenever that may be, from probably 4 or 5 years from now, probably. Hopefully at least a lot lesser time, but I'm not going to expect it for a good amount of years. Um, I do think that saying the Outer World scope, it does dampen my excitement a tad. And I say that only because I really like the Outer Worlds a lot. And it reminded me of like that Fallout vibe that ironically Obsidian gave us.
Yeah.
Um, but I was expecting Avowed because this game's been worked on for over 4 years now, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time it comes out, it'll be about a 4.5, 5 year development cycle. I was expecting a little bit more. And I do prefer the open world to like the open section in video games, but
Yeah, I agree.
again, we can't get everything we want, and I think that Obsidian is doing a great job here, telling us what to expect so that I don't have those or like the what's the word I'm looking for here? I don't want to say disappointment, but like the dampenment, I guess, if that's a word. We're gonna make it one anyway.
Trademark.
Of yeah, right. Of experiencing that, like when I have the controller in my hands, right?
Yeah.
So I like that they're getting out ahead of it, and I love the Outer Worlds. I was gonna go for the platinum trophy in that, but then I realized I had to do something that was gonna be time consuming, and I was like, you know what, probably not the best idea. So I didn't do it.
Nice.
Um, but I spent like more time in that world than I needed to because I beat it and I did like I think I did all the side quests in that, but
Mm-hmm.
I can't confirm that. But
Okay.
it's Obsidian. It's gonna be good. It's gonna have everything that Obsidian is known for. So we're looking forward to that. Moving on to the next thing shown, it actually is Sea of Thieves this time. Uh, Rare is teaming up with Lucasfilm Games, and they're making an expansion for Sea of Thieves: The Legend of the Monkey Island, or of Monkey Island, not the. I added that in there for
Trademarked again.
Yep, we're making this game actually.
Yeah.
Sorry, Lucasfilm and Disney, we're doing it. Does this excite you at all?
So I've never played the Monkey Island games. But I will say I thought the trailer was pretty cool. And actually does really excite me because the last time Sea of Thieves did something big like this was the Pirates of the Caribbean um
Yeah,
like crossover event, and that was awesome. That was so much fun. And there was like a lot of like really cool like collectibles and like Easter eggs and like all these like cool little things that you could find if you like explored a lot during these missions. So I'm actually really excited to have this come out for Sea of Thieves because it's been a while since Sea of Thieves has had any really big content updates. I think the Pirates of the Caribbean update was the last like huge kind of content drop that they had. So I know a lot of people who have been actively playing have been waiting for something like this. And I think that Monkey Island is like the perfect kind of thing to cross over with because that also has pirates in it. So I think it's like pretty genius. Um, I'm not gonna pretend that like I'm a Monkey Island enthusiast because I haven't played the games, but I'm actually excited for this because it's gonna give me a reason to play Sea of Thieves again. Because
Yeah, agreed.
I know they're definitely gonna knock it out of the park with the missions that they add for this. So I think it'll be pretty fun.
So the Pirates of the Caribbean expansion thing was 3 years ago, actually. So it's been a
Jeez.
hot minute
Yeah.
since the last big crossover for Sea of Thieves, and it's been getting like quality of life updates and little things, but like the big thing, it's been 3 years, I believe.
Okay.
Um, but I can't think of anything after Pirates for Sea of Thieves right now. So we're gonna go with that, even if it's not the truth. Just the sources, we made it up. All right.
Yeah.
Um, Speaking of making things up, Xbox came out with a little. Well, actually, it's actually a big surprise. It's very big, and there's a reason for that. So the next game shown is Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. Now, right before Drew and I started recording, we were talking about this because we're excited for it because the first one is, I mean, it's very fun. It's even if you're not super into like aviation, it's just fun to just fly a plane around the world,
Yeah.
and just see like the wonders of the world and whatnot. But the reason that it's called 2024 and not just Microsoft Flight Simulator is because it's the sequel to Flight Simulator. Uh, they call it 2020 now, but it obviously it's just Flight Simulator beforehand. Um, they've got a lot of stuff added in here, and it looks incredible. So they have mountain rescues, they have skydive aviation, they have aerial construction, industrial cargo transport, air racing, scientific research, where there's like tornadoes and hurricanes and stuff, and you can fly around those, and like it's like mission based now. They have hot air balloon races, and hot air balloon trips. It's a lot of cool stuff that they added to this. There's
Yeah.
aerial firefighting, rescues, helicopter cargo transports now. They took a simulator and made it into an actual like video game element to it, and it's very, very cool and beautiful to look at.
Yeah. No,
Um,
it's really exciting. Like Mitch mentioned, we were talking about it before we started recording. But yeah, Flight Simulator 2020 was super awesome. The technology that they have for it is incredible and innovative. And so it's really cool. Like, I honestly wasn't expecting them to make a sequel. I thought they were just gonna keep updating that. But it's really cool that they've been actually like cooking up a full blown sequel that's gonna carry over all the content, and expand upon it. All of these like new mission based things look really interesting and could be like a ton of fun. They're gonna be doing a Dune crossover with the gosh, what is that vehicle called in it? I can't
what
remember
Dune?
now. Yeah, yeah, in Dune.
I can't think of it right now either.
It's something like copter or something like that. But like the little like dragonfly ship from the Dune movie, um,
Yes.
they're gonna have that in there, and then obviously they're gonna have the dunes of Arrakis to fly around. And so that's going to be getting added to Flight Simulator 2020 in on November 3rd. Um, and then we've got Flight Simulator 2024 to look forward to next year. And obviously that content will carry over into the next game too. So yeah, pretty exciting. Now it's not just going to be a chill game or like a super hardcore simulator. Now they're going to have really fun missions that you'll be able to do. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, not only that, it's like a huge variety of missions as well. Like
Yeah.
they really went out of their way to make this game something special, and it does look special. So I'm we're looking forward to that. And the Dune crossover is extraordinary, and I cannot wait to do that.
Oh yeah.
Um, that's free to everyone on Game Pass, both Flight Simulator 2020 and 2024, as well as the Dune update. Everything's free. It's on Game Pass. So yeah, look forward to that piece of content November 3rd, and then Fight Simulator, Rock'em Sock'em Robot Simulator, in 2024. So this is the game that I thought was gonna open the show, but it's about the 20-ish minute mark, about a third of the way through the showcase. They showed Hellblade 2. Again, they didn't show what I wanted, which is pure straight up gameplay. Um, once again, it's in-game footage, all captured on a Series X. But it's a great trailer for mood and tone and atmosphere. Um, it has the voices that are in Senua's head from the first game, and they play with that a lot. It got key art, which might be the box art when it
I
does
hope so
launch.
because it looks awesome.
Yeah, it looks great. Look that up if you are interested in Hellblade 2. But yeah, that's one thing that I was disappointed in is the amount of times that we've seen this game and we haven't gotten gameplay yet. Like, I believe the last time they showed it at the Game Awards, I think, or maybe it was at a showcase. I can't remember.
I think it was the Game Awards, yeah.
They showed off. It was another like an in-game footage kind of ordeal, and that did have some gameplay in it, but it wasn't what you would expect when we say gameplay.
Yeah.
So us not seeing that again disappointed me, but the thing that didn't disappoint me is that it's coming in 2024, confirmed day one on Xbox Game Pass, and I absolutely cannot wait to see what Ninja Theory has been cooking up.
Yeah. Uh, it's super exciting. I think that Ninja Theory is gonna have some really like interesting and innovative and maybe even like revolutionary things in the game. Because we've seen in the past that they're willing and like wanting to really push the current gen technology. And we know that they're working on multiple projects, and some of them are like very ambitious, like using cloud technology. So I'm really curious to see like what they've got cooking up for Hellblade 2, because I mean it's not just going to be a sequel to Hellblade 2. Like there's going to be like something really unique and new and interesting in there, because that's what they like to do. So I'm really excited to get my hands on the game. I'm really hoping that it'll be in the first half of 2024, because we've been waiting for so freaking long. And I just really want to play this game.
Yeah, I hope that it's early as well. I'm hoping for like a I don't know, maybe like a February, March. It didn't say early 2024, but I'm hoping it is early 2024.
Yeah.
Because I absolutely adore the first game. I beat it and I platinumed it in one sitting.
Nice.
It's not super long, so it's like 5 to 6 hours, but I remember I had an opening shift because I was working retail all the time. So I worked from like 7 to 3, and I came home, and it was the day it came out. And I sat down at my desk and I looked up, and the next thing I know, it was like 11 o'clock. And I was like, I should probably go eat now. Uh, and so I did. And it was fantastic, though. I think of that game so fondly, even though it probably wouldn't hold up as well as my brain thinks it would. And that's not like a diss to the game itself, because I think that a lot of the elements of that game would hold up. It's just that even back then, the combat wasn't like something to write home about.
Yeah.
But that's something that I think they're vastly going to improve this time, because it's Ninja Theory. That's kind of what they do. Um, so that's the thing I'm most interested in. That's what I want to see, because like they nailed the aesthetic and the mood and like the set pieces in the first one. It's just I want to see what that gameplay looks like, and I know it's going to be good. I just have to wait a little bit longer, I suppose.
Yeah.
Speaking of waiting a little bit longer, we don't have to wait much longer for the next game in the Yakuza slash Like a Dragon series. Now they've finally localized it in the West. It's no longer Yakuza. It is Like a Dragon. Um, Here we saw like a Dragon 8, which is called Infinite Wealth. Now, Yakuza nerds, please don't get mad at me, because I don't know specifically who said it. It was either the game director or the producer. I can't remember, and I do not know their name. I apologize, but they did say that they wouldn't bring Yakuza to America. They lied. So I think it's Ichiban. That's the character's name from Like a Dragon 7.
Yeah. You're correct.
I didn't play it, but I'm very keen on playing the entire series. He washes up on a beach in America. That's pretty much
Hawaii.
the trailer.
Hawaii, actually.
Hawaii. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that is America, kind of.
Kind of, yeah.
But bipartisanly. Anyways, he washes up on Hawaii. Infinite Wealth, early 2024, out on all platforms, just shown at Xbox. It's a very comedic trailer. If you're into Yakuza, or just funny things, look up this trailer. Infinite Wealth. It's very short. It's funny. He's butt naked and washes up on the shores of Hawaii, according to Drew, the Hawaii expert of the podcast. So
Oh
we're
yeah.
glad to have him here.
Yes, sir.
Transitioning from Hawaii to Atlantic City. Fallout 76 is heading to Atlantic City for some god awful reason. As if you needed to go to Atlantic City when there wasn't nuclear wasteland. That's where they're going next. And as someone who hasn't played Fallout 76, well, mainly for a multitude of reasons, but one being that there's a lot of content now. It wasn't good at launch. I know they fixed it, but it's just, I feel like it's an overwhelming task to go back now.
Yeah.
I would want to play this just for the Fallout itch slash just to see Atlantic City. Probably just modern day what it looks like now, because that's what I imagine. It can't get much worse. But so if anyone's listening from Atlantic City, they're going to be fuming. But we like to have fun here, guys. Atlantic City sucks. So yeah, hopefully this doesn't suck though. Fallout 76, it's coming. I don't believe they set a date. Is it coming soon? That's right.
Yeah.
So coming soon, if you're in Fallout 76, there's your update for that. And I will say, since we're covering like the Bethesda portion, well, it's already over now, but I wanted to say that like normally since Bethesda was acquired from Xbox, and even before then, they spent a lot of the middle section of their showcases, like, updating us on like Elder Scrolls Online, Fallout 76, and like some other like live service stuff that a lot of people don't care about, but a lot of people do. I think that this showcase perfectly nailed exactly what they needed to do in terms of getting the information across in a way that wasn't super long or boring or cringy, even for the people that are not interested in this. So that's another reason why I think this showcase is top notch, top tier, one of the best to ever do it.
Yeah, no, for sure, I agree.
So Capcom rather, held their own event the day after. Actually, was it the day after or was it the same day?
It was
as
the day
Xbox?
after, yeah.
Okay, so it was kind of weird seeing a new IP at Xbox, but it was very welcoming because I did miss the Capcom showcase. However,
You don't need to watch it.
yeah, I'm not. Like, there's a reason I didn't watch it. I was like, I can do this or this, and I'm like, well, I can just get up to speed with Drewby on the Capcom thing. And we're in a big group chat with a bunch of our friends, and they were saying, yeah, this could have been an email, and I was like, I will make it an email. So Capcom was at Xbox though, and they showed off a game that looks over the top, but in a good way. It's very bright at times and very dark at times, and I know that's a poor description of what this game is. The graphic fidelity isn't fantastic, but the art style is. So think of like, no, I'm going to say this, but bear with me. Like a Tears of the Kingdom inspired art style, but not inspired in the way that it looks like Tears of the Kingdom or Breath of the Wild, but like the what am I trying to say here? The way that it's different than what we've seen before is what I'm trying to say, but just doing it poorly. It's a weird looking game, right? But the gameplay itself looks absolutely fantastic. And I think that alone is going to sell me on this game.
Sure.
I believe it's in Japan, if I'm not mistaken.
Probably, yeah.
We're going to say it's in Japan, even if it's not, because that's what we do here. We make our own news sources.
Yeah.
It's called Path of the Goddess, and it looks really cool. And the reason I'm going to play this is because it's day one on Game Pass. If you're into like third person action games, I kind of got some Nier Automata vibes from the gameplay alone, not like the visual fidelity of it. But the gameplay is super smooth in that game, and I'm really looking forward to it now.
For sure.
All right, Drewby, I'm gonna need to engage how excited you are for this next one.
Right.
So for this next game, the date leaked, of course. That's how these things go. But next up, they showed Forza. And when they came out and they showed Forza here, I was like, what in the world is happening? We have had banger after banger, um, surprises, like a Dragon was there, Persona was there. So I mean, like they're hitting these different markets that normally they don't hit these markets. They are showing all of their big heavy hitting games. What's going to be last? Unfortunately, it was just Starfield, and I say that not condescendingly, but I wanted there to be one last thing because that's what makes showcases fun.
Hmm.
But anyway, Forza was shown. It's Forza Motorsport. They dropped the number at the end. It's just Forza Motorsport now, which I actually like.
Yeah.
I don't. What were they on before? Like 8 or 9?
7, I think.
Okay, so this would have been 8.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was time to drop that. Little to no surprise, this game looks absolutely fantastic.
And it's got cars. I was actually a little bit surprised by that.
Now, if they threw in Lightning McQueen, I would have been surprised. But
Dude,
unfortunately,
hey, Xbox already has that partnership with Disney established. Whoever is like working on Forza Motorsport, please, please do a Cars crossover. Like, I'm not even like kidding. That would be so hilarious and awesome at the same time.
I feel like that's something that Forza Horizon would legitimately do, and
For
I
sure,
need that to
for sure.
happen just so I can go drifting with Lightning McQueen and just go ka
Exactly. Or play my boy Miter.
That would be incredible. Uh, I would buy that. I wouldn't even use Game Pass for that.
Oh
I would
yeah,
buy that expansion.
absolutely.
So Forza is out October the 10th. So for all the car nerds, your simulator's coming early October, right before Spider-Man. So get your driving in so you can go swing it on the 20th. But back to Bethesda news. Elder Scrolls Online makes an appearance once again. Um, there's an expansion coming June 20th. It's Necrom Shadow over Morrowind.
Yes.
That's the tagline, but it's called Necrom. So I guess you're going back to Morrowind. I thought they had already went to Morrowind once, but
Yeah,
whatever, I guess.
I think they already had some Morrowind stuff, but I think they're like expanding upon it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Um, it looks cool. I mean,
Yeah.
it looks like Elder Scrolls Online, but better. And they just keep making the game better and better. I would assume. I'm
Oh
not
yeah,
super into the community, but I mean, every time they show it, it looks better and bigger and awesome.
for sure.
MMOs just aren't my thing, both from a time perspective and just the gameplay loop. It's an addicting thing that I can't afford to get into.
Yeah, that's very fair.
Um, Overwatch 2 is the next game shown.
We can just go right over that and skip ahead.
Yep, and I planned on doing that, except for the fact that it's so for the two people that play Overwatch 2, Heroes Starter Pack is coming out. It's all 6 heroes, legendary skins, in-game cosmetics, and they're doing the story stuff that they're making you pay for. Uh, Super dumb. I don't know why they do that. It makes me mad because they were like, I'm pretty sure they advertised two as hold on, let me back up. So the microtransactions, right? The excuse for those were that they were funding the single player expansions coming in Overwatch 2, right?
Yeah.
Well, now they're making you pay for it. And it's stupid and dumb, and I don't know why on earth they think that would be okay.
It's ridiculous, but that's
So,
that's freaking Activision for you.
yeah, it's stupid. Overwatch 2, a new adventure begins August 10th. If you're into Overwatch, there you go. And I'm sorry that you're in Overwatch. Play Rainbow Six Siege.
Oh, man.
We are not endorsed by Rainbow Six Siege, but I like it better. So, the other portion of Persona that leaked, Persona 5 Tactica, is coming out November 17th. They got the trailer that we pretend like we didn't see, but we definitely different. Why am I saying different?
Definitely.
I can't believe I just can't talk right now. Yeah, it's a cool little trailer. If you're into tactics games or Persona 5 spin-offs for the 30th time, um, November 17th is your date for that.
On Game Pass day one.
On Game Pass day one. That's a common theme for Atlas nowadays. It's very cool to see because
Yep.
for a long time Xbox wasn't in the Japanese market, and now they're going in there very strongly. So we approve. Actually, wasn't it last year that they just got Persona, like in general?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's super cool. So they're developing a great partnership and friendship, I guess, with Atlas.
Yeah.
Persona 5 and 3 are coming to Game Pass day one. And yeah, another game is coming to Game Pass day one, which makes absolutely no sense why this trailer was even in the showcase itself. They revealed a Starfield trailer. It was a good trailer, to be fair.
Oh yeah.
But it was unnecessary given that we were about to have a 45-minute direct right after.
Yeah.
It was kind of just like, hey, here's a new trailer that you can share, that isn't, the massive direct we're about to do.
Yeah, I
and
feel
kinda
like
just
they
reminding
should
people.
have saved that trailer for the end of the showcase to transition into Starfield. Um, I thought the placement of it was kind of just like a
It was
little
odd,
weird.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and especially because it like made me think, oh, are they actually like just going into Starfield now? Is that the end of the showcase? But it wasn't. So
And like if you were watching live, it kind of felt like the end of the showcase. Like
yeah,
it felt like that was the end because they had shown everything and we were like, what could they possibly keep showing?
exactly.
But fortunately for us, they did keep showing more, and it's a couple of good things. So right after that Starfield trailer, we got a little indie game from Don't Nod, I believe it is. Let me
Hmm.
just double check that. Yep, it is Double Nod or Double Nod. Don't Nod. Uh it's like a climbing game. The tagline of it is climb fall 2023. It's called Jusant, I believe. I think that's how you say it. If I'm butchering that, I do apologize.
I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but we're just gonna go with it.
Yeah, because we make our own rules here. It's a game, and I don't say that negatively. It looks really cool. It's just hard to explain other than you climb things.
Yeah, the
Um,
art style is fantastic.
it is. It really is fantastic.
It looks like it's gonna be one of those indie games that's gonna be a smash hit. Just just from the vibes that I'm getting from it. And I'm definitely gonna have to try it out.
And luckily for you, it's on Game Pass, so you don't have to
Exactly.
pay for anything. Another reason why Game Pass rules. So speaking of Game Pass ruling, another game coming to Xbox Game Pass day one is a game called Still Wakes the Deep. This game leaked a few minutes before um, the showcase happened. It it looks to appear to be on like an oil rig. It's developed by the Chinese Room. I'm not super familiar with that name, but it's a cool developer team
So
name.
yeah, they worked on some of the Amnesia games.
Oh, that's actually
Yeah.
very interesting then, because Amnesia rules.
Okay,
And
I just looked it up. Yeah, it was Amnesia, a machine for pigs. They worked on Everybody's Gone to the Rapture and then Dear Esther, which both
ooh,
those two latter ones are like really well received indie titles.
Everyone Gone to the Rapture is a great game. Back when PlayStation used to do themes, because I pre-ordered that game, they gave you a super
Hmm.
sweet theme, and it was super peaceful, and it had like a really nice theme song to it. And so that was
Nice.
my theme for years, on PS4. Very good stuff. That makes me very excited for this because I mean the atmosphere of it was super intense. Um, but yeah, Still Wakes the Deep out early 2024. It's on Game Pass. Looks to be fantastic. Amnesia developers, everyone's gone to the Rapture developers. Very cool. Um, I think this game might be the thing that I was least excited about, but I still think that it looks interesting. So the world kind of looks like Borderlands-ish to me,
Hmm.
but and the character kind of looks like Hi-Fi Rushish.
Yeah.
Rushish. I don't know if that's I don't know if that's English or not, but hopefully you guys understand what I mean. Um, it's an interesting trailer, and I think that you should watch it even though it's probably my least exciting thing in the showcase. But again, everything is subjective. But this game, it looks good. Don't get me wrong. That's not why I'm not um, raving about it. It's just that it's very bright, and when I play super bright games, it hurts my eyes, and so I don't know if I'll be able to physically play this game. What did you think about it? Dungeons of Hinterberg.
Interberg, yeah.
What did you
Yeah,
think?
it looks interesting. What like I wasn't like super excited for it, but it's on Game Pass, so I'm probably gonna try it out. Um, on IGN they said like it's got exploration, fast-paced combat, towns to explore, a lot of like varied environments. So yeah, it looks like it could be a neat little like indie game. I'll definitely try it out since it's gonna be on Game Pass, but um, it's not something that like super appealed to me. Um, but
Right.
who knows? Like maybe it's an awesome game and I'll really love it.
Yeah. See, the thing is that it's gonna hurt my eyes, but I definitely want to try it out because I think it's intriguing, but it's of the showcase, it's the weakest link for me. For me, that's also actually I lied. I just scrolled down and saw that there's another game in there. So I take that back. Everything. I love this game. I'm gonna play this game. Uh, no, seriously, it looks good. Dungeons of Hinterberg is 2024. It's on Game Pass. Um, Very cute little indie thing. It looks like
Yeah.
another cute little indie game coming out. Drew, I don't know if you've heard about this one. Cyberpunk 2077. Its DLC got dated. It is November 26th, 2023. Our boy Keanu Reeves came out again, did his thing. No, you're breathtaking. He didn't do that,
No,
but
I wish he did.
um, yeah, me too. Uh, Fantastic though, and this is gonna get me back into the game, I think, but it's just not when it comes out. So, Starfield comes out 3 weeks before that. Mortal Kombat 1 comes out, I think, less than a week before this. So there's no chance of me playing a big open world thing
Yeah,
that isn't Starfield.
for
But
sure.
the things that we're hearing about this DLC, about it completely overhauling the entire game and making
Yeah.
it feel like the next gen version of this game, is incredibly exciting. Uh,
Yes.
when right after the showcase, there was a bunch of people tweeting from the industry that got to play this, and they're
Yeah.
like, "Hey, if you're playing Cyberpunk right now, just don't like when this DLC comes out. It's going to completely change how the game plays and feels, and like the skill trees and the perks and the way that you play the game is fundamentally changing with this DLC. And they really wanted to make this DLC like their redemption story for Cyberpunk 2077.
Yeah.
Because if you're not familiar, like this game was incredibly hyped as this well, very cyberpunk world. Has Keanu Reeves in it. it the way it was shown, it was kind of like people had the expectation that this was going to be like more than a game. It was going to be like an event, an experience. We were going to be living in this world. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case, but it seems like they're righting those wrongs now.
Yeah.
Um, and it looks incredibly good, and apparently it plays incredibly good.
Mm. Yeah, they like overhauled the gameplay. They also overhauled the AI system, so the AI are a lot smarter now. Because that was like one of the issues before, is the AI was pretty dumb. Um, but they completely reworked that. If you've never heard of Skill Up, he's got a great YouTube channel, does reviews, gameplay impressions, and stuff like that. He did a deep dive of what he got to play for Phantom Liberty. I highly recommend checking it out because he goes into great detail of like all of the amazing changes that they're making for the game. And it's got me super hyped for it because I personally loved the base game itself. Yes, it had like issues. It was flawed. It was like really buggy at launch, but overall as a game and like a story, it was pretty awesome. So the fact that they're improving like everything that it was flawed with gets me like super excited.
Yeah, agreed. And it's making me want to get back to Night City. I'm just not gonna
Yeah.
be able to because of time. And there's so much coming out, guys. Like
Oh yeah.
we're living in the best timeline right now for gaming and film in general. Like even TV shows, like all kinds of
Oh yeah.
entertainment mediums, like we're getting the best of the best right now. And it's fantastic stuff. So originally I lied and I said the Dungeons and Hinterberg was my least favorite part of the showcase. That's wrong. It's completely up the list compared to this next game. And this is not a dig at it. It's just completely not my game. So Hinterberg actually has a chance of being a game for me. I'm probably just gonna have to like adjust the light settings because it again it is a bright game. Um, Cities Skyline 2. I don't know if this was already announced or not. Probably it
I think
was,
it
or
was.
I think it was too, because I think I've heard that name before.
Yeah, I don't think there was any like footage of it beforehand or something like that.
That would make sense because they showed a lot of gameplay footage here.
Yeah.
This game looks incredible in terms of like the detail and the scope, but
Hmm.
building things has never been my thing in video games. I'm just not that creative, nor do I want to build a city that I can't live in. Um, that said, I do love The Sims, but I don't like. I feel like this is such a bigger scale than The Sims.
Oh, for sure.
Um, like even though what was those games called back in the day? Like for 360 and PS3, where you built like the roller coaster parks, like the amusement parks.
Uh, are you talking about the like Lucasfilm one, like Thrillville?
No, it was like it was like not rock and roller coaster, something roller coaster. I thought I don't remember. I'll look
Roller
it up
Coaster
after.
Tycoon? I don't know.
That's
They
it. That's
okay.
it.
Um,
Um, yeah, I rented that thinking that like the game was just gonna be me riding roller coasters for some reason.
yeah.
Yeah, and then they were like, "Nope, you got to build it." And I was like, "Screw this!" And I took my game back to Movie Gallery, and I think I rented Def Jam Fight for New York instead. So
Nice.
that tells you about the man that I am. You got any thoughts on City Skylines? Does this interest you whatsoever?
Um, I've never really like played too many games like this before. But it is coming to Game Pass, so if I'm bored someday, I might actually just try it out because I do think that for the type of game that it is, it looks fantastic. And I know the first one has a huge following and it's got great reviews. Um, so if I find myself bored at some point, I might just like check it out, maybe get a few achievements in it, just to boost up my gamer score. But it's not like a game that I'm like actively looking forward to.
Yeah, and I think that's where I'm at too. I'm like, I recently moved and I have really good internet now, so I can download games in like the blink of an eye. It feels like.
Yeah,
So with this coming out, this comes out October 24th. It has no chance of me playing that anytime soon because of Spider-Man 2 coming out 4 days before this. Um, but if I'm bored one day and I see it on there, I'm like, hey, I'll download this, try it out for 5 minutes, and then uninstall it. That'll probably be my experience with it. Because again, that's just not my game, but I know there's a lot of people that love that stuff. So
yeah, no, for sure.
speaking of surprises, though, Drew, even though we weren't speaking of surprises, but that's my segue bit. This game, once again, for the third time this showcase, comes from Atlas. And I'm so incredibly thankful that this game did not leak. Um, so, again, just to reiterate, Persona 3 Reload and Persona 5 Tactica did leak via Atlas. It was a foreign account on Instagram, but it was an official Atlas account, but it was a foreign Atlas account.
Yeah.
I believe it was France. I could be wrong on that. So, France, if you're listening to this, I apologize. Um, I'm not very sorry, but I'm a little bit sorry. So, um, but they unveiled a game called Metaphor Re Fantasio, and it essentially is fantasy Persona. This game looks incredible.
Yeah.
I absolutely am clamoring to play it. It looks so good. If you love like the social links and the graphic fidelity and like the art style and the depth of which Persona is, and you want it in a fantasy setting, this is the game for you. It's made by the developers of 3, 4, and 5. Um, the menu, like the pause menu, like for like your skills, your items, your equipment, your party, etc., is probably my favorite pause menu of all time, and that's just from this trailer. I think that the colors and the art of it make it look phenomenal, and that alone makes me want to play the game.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. It looks awesome. Uh, it's really interesting to see them making a new franchise because I thought this was gonna be like another Shin Megami Tensei or however you pronounce it. Um, but no, it's a completely new IP with the same kind of gameplay style as Persona in a fantasy setting. Um, so that's really exciting. I love Persona. And I'm definitely gonna be playing this one when it comes out.
Yep, same. Uh, Also, this is not going to be on Game Pass, but this is a game that is worth buying. And I hope that Persona being on Game Pass entices Xbox gamers to really give this a chance and buy it full price because this game looks phenomenal.
Yeah.
If there, well, maybe not, but if like there's 5 trailers that I would suggest going to watch on the showcase, that would be one of them. Um, because I think even like especially if you're into anime or just the Persona series or turn-based combat or if those aren't enticing, just give it a shot. And if you don't like it, then you don't like it. But if you do, then you're gonna love it, I think. Uh, and yeah, I think that's about it for Metaphor, aside from me boosting its view count, trying to get people to watch it. Because I think that's the thing I'm most hyped for outside of Starfield from this showcase, just because I know it's coming in 2024.
Yeah.
Uh, and I didn't see Hellblade gameplay, so I still don't know what that game is. But yeah, it's probably top 3 things for me in the showcase. But we've been talking about Tears of the Kingdom a little bit today, and I guess Zelda in general. I did mention Breath of the Wild earlier, I believe as well. There's a new game called Stoic. It's a co-op game. No, sorry, I lied. It's called Towerborn. My apologies. I don't know why I said Stoic for. It's called Towerborn. It's a Game Pass game. It reminded me of Tears of the Kingdom / Breath of the Wild. Some enemies and like the cell shaded art
Hmm.
style. It looks very good.
Yeah.
Um,
It's
it,
also developed by the same devs who made the Banner Saga games, which are some
oh, I didn't know
really
that.
interesting indie games.
Oh, that's Stoic. That's where I'm getting it from.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. um, but yeah, no, this looks really solid. It's like a co-op adventure game, but it's like an ever-changing world. So like the vibes that I got from it in terms of its gameplay kind of reminded me of Castle Crashers,
Oh
um,
yeah,
but
sure.
which yeah, fantastic game by the way. But yeah, it's very unique. Like in the fact that it's that kind of like style of game, but like the world is always going to be changing, and like different things that happen to the game will affect the world. Uh, so yeah, it sounds really interesting. Coming out on Game Pass day one in 2024.
Yes. Looks good. Even if I butchered the name and called the game the studio name. Uh, the Game Pass thing is definitely gonna sell me on this game because I actually would buy this game full price.
Yeah,
But Game Pass allows me to play it without doing that, um, which is great. There was a game that came out, I think last month called Ravenlock. It's an indie game. Um, I beat it in one sitting. It's a very short game. It's on Game Pass. I would recommend it. It reminds me of like that early, like the original Xbox. Um, Kind of Fable-ish, honestly. I got some Fable vibes from it. It's short. It's sweet. It's pretty simple, but I believe this is the studio's first or second game. Um, so I'm gonna promote Ravenlock for a second because it's on Game Pass and I like it a lot. Um, but yeah, Game Pass is such a great thing for indie games to get people to play them that normally wouldn't want to spend like the $15 on a game.
yeah,
Because if you like it, you can buy it, and that's something that I did with
exactly.
Ori and the Blind Forest. Is I played that on Game Pass, and I fell in love with it. So I bought that and the sequel on Xbox. I bought both of them for the Nintendo Switch, and I bought like the little plushie, like Ori,
Yeah,
um, just because I fell in love with like that world and that character. Um, and that's the beauty of Game Pass is it allows us to find those hidden gems that normally wouldn't get the love that they deserve otherwise.
sure.
So we're gonna wrap up the Xbox showcase with a brand new game brand new IP from In Exile.
Mm-hmm.
It's called Clockwork Revolution. It looks fan freaking tastic. So I
Yes,
got some
sir, it do.
high BioShock Infinite vibes.
Mm.
I got some Dishonored vibes with some kind of like crap, I'm blanking on the name right now. Oh, Deathloop. Got some
Yeah.
Deathloop vibes with like the time aspect of the game. This is a trailer I would highly recommend going to watch because again, I don't think that we can do it justice just by talking.
Mm.
It's an FPS, maybe not FPS, but it's a first person action
It
game
is
kind
it
of.
is a first person shooter. Yeah,
Well, I
just
know
looked
you're
it up.
shooting it, but I, I don't know. When I say FPS, I think of like Call of Duty or like
That's fair.
Battlefield or so like it is an FPS, but like I don't know. It's weird. That's why I said go watch the trailer because even like so it is an FPS, but it's unique. It looks incredible. Um Obviously this is coming to Game Pass day one. We don't know when. It's probably 2025, I would imagine. Um just due to the fact that In Exile needs some time to get this thing cooking, but
Yeah.
it looks great. This is another one that I would probably put my top five for oops, I dropped my pen. Uh for the showcase. And of course this being the closer. I guess if you look at this as the closer, but without it being like the one more thing, we did have an Xbox first party closer.
Yeah. That's very
So
fair.
that actually makes me happy. I guess I just didn't realize that in the moment because we were
Um,
transitioning to Starfield.
I'm gonna actually. I just looked on Steam. They have a brief description of the game, just to like
Okay.
kind of give you a little better idea of what the game is. Um, Clockwork Revolution is a time-bending steampunk first-person RPG. After stumbling across an incredible invention that allows you to travel into the past, you discover the city you call home, the vibrant steam-powered metropolis of Avalon. Uh, has been carefully crafted through the alteration of historical events. By traveling back to key moments, your interactions and choices will have a butterfly effect on the deep narrative driven world and characters of Avalon, causing them to change and react in unprecedented ways. So
That sounds
that,
awesome.
yeah, that sounds really interesting. I had no clue it was an RPG. That's not surprising though, because that's been N Exile's thing. But yeah, that sounds super sick.
Agreed. It looks fantastic. Highly recommend going to watch that trailer because it looks great. I mean, I can't say enough good things about it. I know a lot of people probably wouldn't love it just due to the fact that it looks like a mesh of a bunch of things that we've already seen. But again, it reminds me of Bioshock Infinite, and I desperately want another game that has that aesthetic. So
Yeah,
give me that steampunk aesthetic. You know that came and went. But also my favorite Assassin's Creed is from steampunk. So
for sure.
Syndicate, baby, I think is great. So that was the last game shown at the Xbox Game Showcase, but Phil Spencer came out and announced the new version of the Xbox Series S. It has a 1 terabyte SSD now. It's black instead of the white with the black speaker. It is like the uh it's a glossy black finish. It costs $349. Oh, they got it right here. It's carbon black is their definition of it.
Gotcha.
349 and it is coming out, I believe, September 1st. Or I know it's September, but I believe it's the 1st of September. Yes, confirmed. September 1st, and pre-orders are up now. Um, and yeah, that wraps up the Xbox showcase. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna transition shortly into um the Starfield Direct. But first, I believe we have a write-in question, correct?
We do. From the one, the only Walker, Texas Ranger Jimmy Jam.
The one and only, baby.
The one and the only. Um, well, I guess I'll go ahead and read it off since I got it right here. Um, so our boy, the myth, the legend, he asked, even though Xbox had a better showcase than Sony, how much did it actually do as far as console wars go? Mitchy man, what are your thoughts on that?
Um, I think that it's the beginning of something special for Xbox. I think that this showcase itself isn't gonna push. I don't think Xbox did enough here to push a lot of PlayStation users over to Xbox. Um, However, I do think the Direct did, because Starfield, since Bethesda got acquired from Xbox, um, Starfield has been made to be an Xbox exclusive. It is coming to PC as well, but um, obviously Xbox is the cheapest way of getting into the ecosystem to play Starfield.
Yeah,
Um, and this game is going to be a game of the generation type of game, like Skyrim, like Fallout. It's the next Bethesda thing. This is an event game. We're going to get into it in a few minutes with the Starfield Direct, but this game is going to be massive. It's going to be incredible. I think that this game alone is going to sell um, probably millions of Xboxes, honestly.
for sure.
And I think that this showcase helps them stay on the Xbox platform, but I'm not sure if it moves the needle super far yet. And I say that only because within the next year we're getting Hellblade and we're getting Avowed. Those are
Yeah,
going to help people stay on Xbox. But when Fable and the Gears and Halo and all that starts coming next year, like presumably we're going to hear about them. And we're giving this showcase nines and tens um, from us at Casket Minds, and there was no mention of Gears or Halo to be found,
yeah,
and that says everything that you need to know about Xbox and right now in 2023. Um, just the fact that they had to rely on those two franchises all of last generation. I mean, they carried the Xbox One platform, and now Xbox is in such a great position that they had a almost flawless showcase that didn't even mention Halo or Gears.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, I think that this is everything that Xbox needed. I think that Starfield is going to be something that is going to sell Xboxes and move PlayStation fans to the platform for either the first time or the first time since last generation. Yeah, and then I think that I think Phil and I forget her name. Is her name last name Boone?
gosh, I'm blanking right now. So
I apologize for not knowing her name, but they both said that they want to have four big Xbox games a year. Um, we know two of them for next year. We know Forza this year, Starfield this year. We have Hellblade and Avowed coming. We have Fable coming in the pipeline.
we had Hi-Fi Rush this year as well.
Hi-Fi Rush, that was a hit indie game. Yeah, and with all these games hitting Game Pass day one, I think that Starfield is the stepping stone to getting millions onto Xbox, and then I think Xbox's showcase proved to them why they need to be on Xbox and stay on Xbox.
For sure. No, I totally agree. Um, yeah, I don't really have too many thoughts on it because you kind of hit all the key points. I will say that it's already done a lot for the console wars themselves, or at least the console wars that you see on like Twitter and stuff. Because goodness gracious, the amount of Sony ponies and Xbots that are going to war with each other on Twitter right now, it is insane. And I honestly kind of love it because it makes me laugh. Um, but, but yeah, like they're going at each other right now. You got PlayStation like fans who are just shitting on the Xbox showcase for probably reasons of jealousy because the PlayStation showcase was a letdown. And then you've got the
Mhm.
Xbot fans who are saying that Xbox is changing the industry with this showcase, which it was like a flawless showcase and like the best we've had in years. But um it doesn't mean that Xbox is like the top of the like consoles right now. You know,
Yeah,
they still got a lot of room to improve, and this showcase is showing that they're taking those steps. They're taking big leaps towards where they need to go. Um, so,
100%.
so yeah, it is doing a lot for console wars in terms of like Twitter and stuff like that. But yeah, it'll. We still got, probably a few years to go until we like reach that point where like Xbox is on top of their game again. You know what I mean? They've
Agreed.
still got a lot of games to release till we get to that point.
Yeah, and like just for full clarity, Xbox is last in like hardware sales and stuff, and they've had mixed messaging of like, hey, we don't mind that Xbox is like last, or like we don't necessarily focus on the hardware, and they backpedal on that, and so like Xbox doesn't have like a super clear vision on like what they want from like, because they're bringing Game Pass to like Samsung TVs, and like you can play on the cloud, you can play on your Xbox, your PC. A lot of the time they don't matter, or they don't care rather, where they just want you to play their games.
Yeah,
Uh, but they're lying when they say they don't care about the Xbox sales, because they don't want to be third, they don't want to be behind Nintendo and Sony at the same time.
yeah,
And that's evident from all the acquisitions that they have, the studios, and all these great games that they're making. Um, but Phil is not a stupid man, on the Kind of Funny podcast, or the Kind of Funny Xcast rather, when they were talking about, the Redfall scenario. He was saying that, even if they just made great first party games, that wouldn't be enough to move the needle. They have to branch out and do more. And
yeah,
I think that they're nailing the first party games now. Like there's so much to look forward to here, just from the showcase alone, and they still have their heavy hitters in the background. Another game that we didn't mention was the Initiative's Perfect Dark remake. Um, that wasn't shown here because that's in like development hellish right now. I
yeah.
think they're finally figuring that out as well. But I mean, in terms of um I lost my train of thought. Hold on, maybe I'll come back. Oh, not only like the first party stuff, but like the cloud initiative, their games being cross save, and like cross progression rather, between Xbox and PC in the cloud. It's great. It's something that I wish Sony would do, which Sony is doing in that, but that's a time for another podcast.
Hmm.
But Xbox is ahead of the game in terms of like the cloud stuff, and in terms of the cross progression with PC, and just being user and like cloud friendly. Uh, it's really good stuff.
For sure.
And I'm really happy to have invested early in the Series X, because I had a feeling that Xbox would come back this generation, and this is the great first step in that direction.
Absolutely, I agree.
All right, that's going to wrap up the Xbox showcase. So we're going to go quickly into the Starfield Direct. Now, this is a 45-minute direct, just 15 minutes shy
Yeah,
of the actual showcase. And they went over a lot, and this is an in-depth thing that everyone should watch.
yes,
Even a casual gamer. I mean, this is what you want. If you're a fan of Skyrim, of Fallout, this is the next game from Bethesda Game Studios. This game is massive, way more massive than anyone could have ever anticipated. Um, I mean, a lot of people that have played it said that it feels like No Man's Sky 2, with Bethesda Game Studios polish and quality, with their narrative structure on top of that. And
yeah,
that's exactly what you would want from a sci-fi game. I mean, this game is the epitome of a perfect thing that I would want from sci-fi, from the 1,000 procedurally generated worlds, um like like the crafting system, the gameplay looks so good. The narrative already looks to be shaping up to be incredible. um and yeah, what did you think about the Starfield Direct?
yeah. No, this honestly, this direct was more than I was expecting. Um,
Agreed.
the way it was structured, how much content was there, everything, every moment of it was engaging. There was not a single moment where I was not glued to the screen listening to everything they were saying, which I feel like happens a lot with like other games when they have like these kind of directs like this where the devs are talking a lot. But I mean, I think it helps for one that Todd Howard is just like a really great public speaker. Like we've
Yeah,
seen
he
it in the
is.
past. He's really great at pitching his ideas, explaining their games and everything. So that definitely does help. But like even the other devs who maybe haven't even like really been on the camera before, like just everything that they were talking about, I was just like so captivated by this entire showcase. Like I'm not even gonna call it a direct. It was a showcase. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it
Like,
really was.
like it was just it was awesome. And so like I will say before this the Starfield Direct, I was cautiously optimistic. I was like really excited by the idea of this game, but I was like, man, like is Bethesda actually gonna like knock this out of the park? Like are they gonna like meet our expectations? Um and I think that this showcase like really laid my worries to rest. Uh, they improved like from the last time we saw gameplay. They improved the gameplay massively, especially the combat. The graphics are better. So like all of that polish that you were hoping for, it's there. It looks like it's a fun game to play. Um, there's so much content to it, and most importantly, it is a Bethesda Studios game. Like they showed some of the dialogue choices. You know, they showed how things will have like a branching narrative, and like certain choices will change the outcome of things, and you can be exactly who you want to be. Um, there was a really interesting thing that they're introducing with your created character, to where you can choose your background, which will come with like certain skills. So for your background, let's say like you wanted your character to be a chef. Well, there are characters that you can speak to where you'll have specific dialogue choices because of your background. So that's like a really cool RPG element. But then they're also introducing traits, which is a new thing that Bethesda's doing. So you can choose 3 traits, and one of the ones they showed was that uh, you have a damage buff, but uh, enemy mercenaries will come and attack you randomly. So that will just like add a ton of replayability and like interesting like gameplay elements. Another one they showed, another trait they showed was I can't remember the name of it. Um, but you can have your character have to pay mortgage uh for your parents, and like you'll have to like pay for their cost of living and like keep in touch with them and everything, and you can like go and like visit them and stuff. Like that is just like it's so like wild, but it's gonna add so much to the gameplay. um and so like hearing things like that is just super awesome. And there's like a million other things that they talked about that's just it really looks fantastic. But I think the greatest thing about it is they set the expectations right. In contrast to like other big games that we've seen like this, like Cyberpunk 2077, for example, um, I feel like CD Projekt Red didn't do good enough to set expectations, but Bethesda, they set the expectations here. Like they showed realistic gameplay. Like some of this gameplay was like running in 30 frames per second, and they said like it is gonna run on 30 frames on console. Locked at 4K 30 FPS for the Series X, and then 2K 30 FPS for Series S. So they like set all these like expectations. So I really feel like they're gonna knock it out of the park with this one.
Yeah, like I said earlier, like we can't do this game justice by talking about it. We can
Yeah.
only like continue to hype it. And I think that's because this is a 45-minute in-depth thing that goes
Mm,
over almost everything that you would want to know about this game. And I'm gonna break down the video in terms of like how long each segment is, just to let you know how in-depth this thing goes. This is the most in-depth video thing I think there has ever been for a video game.
absolutely.
Um, I mean, the the world and the detail and the presentation is just impeccable. It's um, I'm running out of things to say about it. One thing quick to note is that it was the IGN article after that that revealed the 30 FPS thing. So if you watch the thing and you're like, why is that not in there? It's because it was talked about afterwards. But it
Yeah,
is confirmed that for Series X it's 4K 30, Series S is 1440p 30. Um, and that is a creative decision. They can't reach a stable 60, which is totally justifiable for a game like this. And they were catching some heat at first after they announced that and that interview dropped, which it dropped the same day.
yeah,
Um, but a bunch of developers, even from the Sony side, came out and defended it and was like, "Hey, like a game this big, it's a creative decision to do what they're doing.
yeah,
And just to trust them, like you're going to get the best product because they know their game better than anyone, including us. So
for sure.
to just trust them, and even the just the gameplay that you see in this 45-minute direct is enough to just trust Bethesda. Like I'm sure there's going to be Bethesda bugs, but even then, there was Phil himself that said that this was the
No,
least buggy.
it was Matt Booty,
Yeah, that's it.
which
Thank you.
is the greatest name I think I've ever heard ever.
100%. Yeah, he came out and said this is the least buggy Bethesda game,
Yeah,
and that remains to be seen. But I mean, this game has been it got delayed an entire year,
yeah.
so they're doing QA and making sure that this game is coming out as near as perfect as they possibly can.
Yeah, it seems like this
Um,
past year they've really focused on, at least from what they've said about the game, it seems like they're focusing on polishing the game.
yeah,
Because
and it
Phil
really
did say
tells.
he's been playing the game since December. So to me, that tells me the game's been kind of quote unquote done for a while now, but they're like really like ironing out as many bugs as they can, which is fantastic. Because if they can minimize the Bethesda bugs that we have come to know. I mean, like I still want them to be there. That's Bethesda's thing.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
but uh but if they can make this as polished as possible, like man, it's gonna be truly special.
Agreed. I would highly recommend everyone go watch this. But before we move on, I'll just break down how long each segment of this 45 minutes is, just so you have like a quick idea about what it is. So there's about um 12 to 13 minutes just talking about your quest, about the character constellation, the idea of your character going on this journey, the story aspects of it, and everything you need to know about that. And then they go into about a 4-minute digestion of character creation itself and just showing you the options of which you can, like the stuff that you can actually do with like your physical appearance.
Yeah.
They spend the next 4 minutes talking about skills only, like the skill trees, what that looks like. If you've played a Bethesda game at all, like dialogue options and like the stealth and all the branching skills that you can take. They spend 4 to 5 minutes just going over that alone.
Hmm.
The next 3 minute is on your ship and how customizable and how silly that you can get with this thing. I mean, there was one that looked like a transformer.
Yeah,
So like you can take parts and you can do whatever you feel like you want to do with your ship. You can create it in your image, and that's how cool this game is.
for sure.
They spend the next couple of minutes talking about your companions, and then they get into space flights, and they go into that for about 5 to 6 minutes. They just talk about flying in space. Then they go over the watch aspect in the collector's edition. So if you've played Fallout, you know about the Vault Boy, the Vault Tech thing that you what is that thing called? Pit Boy.
Pit Boy.
Pit
Yeah,
Boy.
yeah, yeah.
So the Pit Boy, there's a version of that in this game. It's a watch. It's a smart watch. If you buy the collector's edition, you get the physical thing. You can sync it up to your phone and your game, and you can do cool little things with that. If you're interested in that, that's in the video. They officially unveiled the Xbox headset and controller for Starfield, which both look absolutely incredible.
Hmm.
Um, and then the next couple minutes, probably about the next 6 to 7, are on exploration and outposts. So what it looks like when you're flying in space and you encounter a planet, and you can scan that planet and see the resources and see if you even need to go to that planet, because it's completely optional and there's thousands of planets, right? So I mean, you can, if you don't need the resource on that planet, once you scan it, you don't have to go there unless you have to go there for a quest.
Yeah,
So um it's super incredible stuff what they're doing here.
for sure.
And that's kind of what lends to like the No Man's Sky stuff, like the resources and going to the planets and whatnot. um you can scan for like the gravity, and each gravity is going to determine how like landing feels and flying, and the the way you shoot your guns. Even it's incredible what they've done with this game. Like there's so much attention to detail and care that it's just fantastic.
Yeah,
And then the last little portion is they go over for about 4 minutes of combat, and just about combat, and it's super good. And then of course Todd thanks everyone, and yeah, welcome to Starfield in just 3 months. We're only less than 3 months away from Starfield,
crazy.
right? Yeah, so that wraps up the Xbox and the Starfield Direct. Um, I believe we have a comment about Starfield, correct?
Yeah, so we had a comment on episode 4 on YouTube. I'm gonna probably butcher this last name, but Brandon McAlpine commented that he already has Starfield pre-downloaded and he's super stoked to play it. He also said that he can't wait to do just every possible side mission before progressing the main story, like after the tutorial. Um, which I'm right there with you, dude. I think this is gonna be one of those games where it's gonna be really hard to progress through the story because there's gonna be so much awesome content to do.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. It's gonna feel like Tears of the Kingdom esque, where like you see the thing and you're like, "Ooh, I want to go here and do that."
exactly. You see that planet over there? Yeah, you
You
can
can go
fly to
there.
it. Oh man.
All right, so thank you for writing in, and of course, if you want to write into the show, you can always comment on our YouTube, or you can find us on Twitter at Casket Minds. We have a Facebook page, or if you don't want to do that, you can always just message Drew and I, and we'll read on the show if you have a question or a comment or a concern, if that's what you want to do. You can complain to us, and we'll read it on the air. How about that? That sounds funny. Um, but yeah, so we're going to quickly talk about some things at Ubisoft Forward real quick. I think there's three big things that I think that we should talk about, and we don't have to talk about them at length, but we
Yeah.
can talk about them in general. Um, so it opened the show with Avatar, well, kind of after the Just Dance dancing. Um, Avatar was the first real game. Come at me. That was shown at the Ubisoft Forward. Um, Avatar, Frontiers of Pandora. That's the name of it, right?
Yeah.
All right. So this game is like a first person. You're playing as a Navi. Um, it's massive. I believe they confirmed it was open world, right?
Yeah, yeah, it's open world.
Yeah. So it's open world, and you get, I forget what the flying creatures are called, but I mean they showed gameplay of it, and it just looks absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
Um,
Two-player co-op as well, which we had no clue about before. And
Agreed.
I
It's
honestly
co-op.
wasn't expecting that. Like it looked like it was a single player game, and they're like, it's actually two-player co-op.
Yes, exactly. Um, which is very interesting, because this game is developed by Massive as well, the same people that are doing Star Wars Outlaws.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know how they made both of these games at the same time. I know there's probably two different teams, but even then,
Yeah.
like these are two incredibly ambitious titles coming from Ubisoft, and um, yeah,
I
this
guess
is
they
one
have
that
two massive teams, if you know what I'm saying.
uh, yeah. So you get the puns here at Casket Mines, all right. Um, yeah, this game looks impeccable. I would highly suggest going to see the trailer for that, because they break down a little bit, not of course not the Starfield level, but they tell you what the game is, what it's about. They show you some gameplay. It's about what you would expect if you would be like, I want an Avatar game that's open world and massive and looks good and plays good. It's about what you would expect, but that's a good thing. This is exactly what I want from Avatar. Um, Expanding the world and the lore and the characters that we don't know about, and seeing Pandora. Um, Incredible stuff.
For sure. I'm really excited to get my hands on it. comes out in December too, which is really
Yes,
awesome.
that was the big surprise. December 7th of this year, it's out. There is a collector's edition. I believe it's $300. Cool statue. So
Very
if you're
cool.
really into
Yeah.
the Avatar world, or Jim Cameron, who introduced this game, by the way,
Yeah.
um, yeah, go and watch that trailer because if you're into Avatar, this game is for you. It looks like Far Cry in Pandora. It's awesome. Um, yeah, but the second game I think that we should talk about is Mirage, Assassin's Creed. So this game is in Baghdad. I think it's 9th century Baghdad, if I'm not mistaken.
I think that sounds
Um,
right.
and it goes back to the roots of Assassin's Creed. It looks like Assassin's Creed One. If you love Assassin's Creed One, you're gonna love this game.
Yeah.
Um, the swords feel like they actually hit instead of clipping through the characters. You know, the dodging, the blocking, the stealth aspect is back. There's new mechanics on top of that. Of you can like kind of like plan your next attack in terms of like. There's this cool little thing they show in the video, which I would highly suggest going to watch. Is that like he kills 3 people in quick succession, and he does it by an in-game mechanic, and it's really really cool, and I'm super excited to get back to the original Assassin's Creed feel again.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, like, I did love Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and I liked Valhalla a lot. But it's really nice to switch things up and go back to the classic style Assassin's Creed. I think where Odyssey and especially Valhalla um, fail a bit for me is like they don't have as much stealth. Um, the parkour is not as great. It's a lot better in Odyssey than it is in Valhalla, but
Mm-hmm.
Valhalla's parkour was a massive downgrade. Um, what I really like from this gameplay is it's combining all of the best elements of Assassin's Creed, um, and they're bringing back the parkour from oh gosh, which one is it? Unity. Like Unity absolutely has the best parkour in the entire franchise. It's just super fast and fluid. The game was like a buggy mess, and it still is, unfortunately. Um, but that game had awesome parkour, and so it looks like they're kind of doing that fast, fluid movement that they had in that for this game. So it's got me like super excited too. Um, I'm a big Assassin's Creed fan, so definitely gonna be
Yes.
playing this.
Yeah, cannot wait. That comes out October the 12th, if I'm not mistaken. Um, Looking forward to that one. And the last thing, we talked about it in the Xbox showcase, but we got the 10-minute gameplay trailer here. Star Wars Outlaws, which looks like the game of our dreams. You play as
Yes.
a female protagonist. You have, I don't even know what, do you know what the kind of creature that is?
I cannot remember off the top of my head.
His name is Nyx, and it's very cool what they can do with that character. You can have it like go attack something or distract someone. Very cool stuff that you can do in mechanically within the world. And they showcase that. That's one that I would highly suggest going to watch as well, especially if you're into Star Wars. Um, yeah, it's the open world game that a lot of people want. And if the lightsabers aren't your thing, which sounds silly, I know, um, you're basically like the rebel scoundrel in this game. Um, it looks incredible. It's set between Empire and Return of the Jedi, if I'm not mistaken, right? Because of there's
Yes,
Slab
that's
Han.
correct.
Yeah, so that to set up the piece there, that's the timeline. Of course, the Empire is there, so I cannot wait to get my hands on this game, dude.
Yeah, I'm super hyped for it. I mean, like I'm a massive Star Wars fan, so obviously I'm gonna be super hyped for it. But I I think this just goes to show that Massive might be one of the best developers, if not the best developer that they have at Ubisoft right now. They have so much um like variety in the type of games that they're making. You know, we had the Division games, we have Division Heartlands, which are like their multiplayer co-op PvE PvP kind of games that are like more live service type of games. Then they've got Star Wars Outlaws, which is full on open world, different planets, um, single player only. And then we've got the Avatar game, which like both Division and Outlaws are third person, Avatar is first person, which that's the first time they've done that. Um,
Hmm.
and it's also got two-player co-op, open world, story driven. So I really like the amount of variety that they have going on here at Massive. It's really exciting to see that. Because I feel like a lot of Ubisoft games, they some of their developers kind of feel samey. And so to
Yeah.
see one of their studios have just a huge variety of different style of games is really cool.
Yeah, and if Avatar and Star Wars both land, those are two massive IPs on top of the original IP being the Division. I mean, if those two land, it, it's definitely time to have that conversation of them being great. And I mean,
Yeah.
both they showed gameplay of both of these, and they both do look great. Um, and again, it's under the massive entertainment umbrella. So if that lands, I think it's time to have that conversation about Ubisoft's best developer.
For
But
sure.
that's going to wrap up our Ubisoft thoughts. And so we're going to go quickly into the news here. There's not much here this week, mainly because, we're getting coverage of the Xbox and Ubisoft and Capcom showcases. We're gearing up for Final Fantasy 16 next week. Um, so there's not a ton of news, but we're going to quickly hit on the things that I think are worth noting for you guys. So, um, I believe that we mentioned on the previous podcast about this one, but story number one is that Embracer Group are letting go of a lot of talent. So it says Embracer Group announces restructuring program that will result in layoffs, studio closures, divestments, and game project cancellations and suspensions. Now, if you don't know what the Embracer Group is, they basically went up and bought a ton of struggling studios a couple years ago.
Yeah.
They own
THQ Nordic.
THQ Nordic, Gearbox, who makes the Gears games, Saber Group, which includes Saber Interactive, who are doing a bunch of cool games. And I mean, they own too many things. Deep Silver being another one, who makes the Saints Row games.
Yeah.
I mean, look, when you buy that many studios, it's bound to fail because you don't have adequate people um, managing them. You're trying to get a ton of investment back on your initial investment, and it's
Yeah.
just not going to work. Um, and yeah, that's essentially what happened. They had a deal. I think it was I can't remember the lump sum that the deal was, but the deal got canceled like the night before the presentation of like them collabing or whatever.
Uh-huh.
Um, and that resulted in a very very awkward and bad um, I guess press conference slash release of like, hey, we were expecting this huge amount of money. They bailed on us, and now we don't know what we're gonna do, essentially.
Yeah.
Um, and so yeah, now we're seeing the repercussions of that. They can't afford to keep everyone, and so they're laying people off. And this comes from Crystal Dynamics, who would normally be impacted, but this is what they wrote. This is from Crystal Dynamics. It says, "We want to reassure fans that there will be no impact in continuing our efforts to with our partners at the initiative on Perfect Dark or our next Tomb Raider title being developed in collaboration with Amazon Games." So it seems like a lot of the smaller guys, a lot of the smaller development teams are being laid off and not a part of Embracer Group's plans going forward, obviously, which is heartbreaking because they don't deserve this, and it's an oversight on a large corporation doing this. Um, but yeah, it's bad for the industry when stuff like this happens. And when Xbox started buying all these companies, they were like, hey, um, that's a problem. And they were using Embracer as an example. I don't think Xbox is going to have nearly the amount of studios that Embracer does, which is saying something
Yeah.
because Xbox are buying a lot. But um, yeah, I don't think it's going to be an Embracer scenario. But again, we can't be closed minded and say that it can't happen. Um, I think this is just a huge lesson in the industry at large that I know this isn't a monopoly, but just that monopolies are bad, that like you can't just buy everything and expect the best. And yeah, you got any thoughts about this?
Um, I guess like the only other thought I have about it is that right after all of this stuff came out, Embracer said, "Yeah, so we want to take the Lord of the Rings franchise and we want to make it a huge, huge gaming franchise."
Oh yeah, I
Right
forgot
after
about
all
that.
these layoffs happened, and right after the Gollum game was absolute trash from what we've heard, so it just seems like they're very out of touch, which is a little worrisome. Because some other studios that they picked up were Eidos Montreal, which is just now Eidos, and then
Yeah.
also Crystal Dynamics,
Yep.
uh, which thankfully their games aren't going to be affected by these layoffs. They've already said that, but it's just a little worrisome that Embracer seems very out of touch, and like they seem to be like talking up a lot of things and they're not really like pulling through with that. um if they come back around and they start dropping some really solid games and putting resources into quality over quantity, that would be awesome. But yeah, we'll just have to wait and see what happens next.
Agreed. So moving on to story number two. These are just two little rapid fire ones we got here. Armored Core 6 gameplay and impressions are out now. Most of your big gaming outlets have coverage of it. So if you're curious about what Armored Core is and what 6 is going to look and play like, there are tons of new gameplay out. I would highly suggest going to watch it if you're a From Software fan or if you're a Dark Souls fan in something in that Soulsborne realm, or if you just like mechs. Yeah, there's a lot of gameplay out. I watched a couple videos myself. It looks incredible. The things that you can do looks great. It looks like they've implemented some Souls-like features, and it looks really good. And I cannot wait to get my hands on this. It
For
comes out
sure.
my birthday, which is August 25th, which I'm very excited about. So I'm hopefully going to take that day off and just play some Armored Core because that sounds like a good birthday to me.
Hey yo, from Soft, hit my boy up with an early copy for his birthday. You know what I'm
Listen, I would love
saying?
that. I'll let you boy.
We can make some content on it.
You know what I'm saying? I'll stream that thing early. I don't care. I don't care about nothing.
Exactly.
And the last piece of news that I want to share is that we've been talking about this. It feels like endlessly on the podcast. Um, Final Fantasy 16 demo is out now. It has been confirmed that it carries progress over to the full release. I know the early hours are cutscene heavy. They have confirmed that. So if you want to go ahead and get out in front of that and get some of the combat, get your feet wet. I know that Drewby has played this demo. I have not gotten a chance to sit down and play it yet, but I'm looking forward to before their full release. So yeah, you got any thoughts on the Final Fantasy 16 demo?
It's fantastic. Which I'm sure you've heard from a lot of people.
Yes.
But yeah, I'm really liking it so far. I think the thing that I love the most so far, the combat is incredible. And I'm like, you're just scratching the surface with it because the demo takes place at the beginning of the game. So I can't wait to see the combat like fully realized. And I've seen some clips of like higher level stuff, and it looks awesome. But then also just the world and the characters, I'm really loving so far. I think that's the thing that's got me the most excited about it. Because it looks like they're shaping up to have a really cool story. And Final Fantasy 15, even though I honestly kind of loved that game, the story was a huge letdown. And it seems like they're kind of like righting those wrongs with this game. So I'm really hyped for it.
So I'm interested to hear about those because I absolutely adore 15, even from a story or yeah, even from like a story perspective. So we're gonna get into that on another episode of the podcast because this
For sure.
is the Casket.
The
Jeez
Casket.
Louise. This is the Casket Minds podcast where we come to you every week, usually Fridays, with the biggest gaming news in the industry, in-depth reviews, impressions, and much more. We want to give you guys a little heads up. Next week's episode, since we're getting out of E3 season, the showcases aren't happening. We won't be doing reactions. We won't be doing like the predictions episodes anymore until next year. Um, So look forward to those next year. But in the meantime, we're going to be doing, we're still going to be doing a weekly episode. It'll vary from week to week. Some of them will be just reviews, some of them will be just news, and some will just be topics. Some we might just do like a podcast where we just list our favorite games and then we rank them in depth, and we can figure out a list of like Casket Mind's #1 top game of all time, whatever that may be. But we figured we give you a little heads up on what the next couple episodes will be. So next week is going to be our Diablo 4 review. Drew and I should have beaten the campaign by then and be into the end game section of the game, where the game really starts to branch out and become great. Well, it is great, but you know what I mean. Diablo is all about the in-game content.
For sure.
So we'll be doing our Diablo 4 review next week, and the week after that, we'll either be doing a full review of Final Fantasy 16 if we've gotten to a place where we can comfortably beat it, or if not, we'll be doing a review in progress and let you know our thoughts on the game. I can't speak for Drewby, but as soon as that game drops, I feel like I'm gonna do nothing but play Final Fantasy 16.
Same.
So look forward to those in the next 2 weeks. And once again, thank you guys for listening so much. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the Casket Minds podcast. Stay up to date on the latest gaming news and more. And we'll see you guys next week for episode 6. Thanks for listening, guys.